those talking in Kilpatrick, who I will welcome in a second, we will be asking Mark Kennedy, Shane Duncan, Jane, Darren, Andy and Dan West to unmute and ask any questions and specifics to Geason Training. But I'd like to welcome you first to the second edition of the Geason Training information. This one is about the future of funding and staff development. And we look forward to hearing a bit more from Ian Kilpatrick on that. So welcome, Ian. And how has the Geason world been ticking along so far?
So far, in the short tense, it's been slightly slower than we first expected when we raised the budget for this year, Paul. The business has been going for 15 years now, so it's growing in age every day. But yeah, I mean, the rest of the year is like everyone. We feel as if there's too many unanswered questions at the moment, and every day we seem to be progressing and learning a little bit more of what the future holds for us. But historically, the business, it's grown every year. We've grown year on year, and that's thanks to people like yourself and meeting so many customers that have helped us on that journey. Okay, well, today what we're doing with a difference is I've got a few people that have specific questions in terms of their own businesses and adapting or trying to adapt or understand the funding mechanisms, the training mechanisms that Geason do provide. So I'm just going to run through a list of those people. We have Mark Kennedy, the MD of Fireward Group. We have Shane Duncan, the MD and owner of Duncan Carpentry and Construction. We have Jane Urwin from Reliable Contractors. Darren Le Huray from Mini Hire. K&D Joinery, we have Andy Sutton, and we have SOS Dan West. Individually, over the next course of half an hour, I'm going to be giving each and every one of these people an opportunity to pose any questions to Ian. But before we do that, is there anything you want to share in terms of I suppose, summarize really what Geason do for the market in general and a bit of membership in general? Yeah, so I'll pick up where we left off last time, just to kind of set the scene, Paul, a little bit, because I think it's quite relevant to this world that we live in today. There's been two huge changes. As the business, as I mentioned earlier on, is 15 years old, there's been two huge changes to our business plan during those 15 years. One was in 2008. And the other one was the introduction to the apprenticeship levy. These were two massive issues out of our personal control that meant that we had to dramatically change the direction the business was going at the time. The apprenticeship levy will probably be touched upon slightly, but if I introduce it to set a scene and go back to 2008, training historically, we're aware, and I'm not scared to admit in front of everyone, unfortunately we're in one of these industries within the construction industry, especially when budgets get tight and financial strain is put across the industry, as it is across the country, as it is at the present moment in time with us going into recession. Training is quite commonly one of the first budgets that seems to get the TIPEX formula. And it's hard for businesses to invest when bottom line is tight. We understand that. And 2008 was a real education for us at that point, because we were very, very rapidly, like many other businesses, very, very rapidly put in a quite a difficult situation where the pipeline kind of just hit a brick wall when Lehman Brothers went down in 2008. We very, very quickly had to adapt to that situation, and much of what I'm going to be talking about today is very, very relevant to what happened back in 2008, where we had to very quickly ascertain how we could continue our business portfolio, continue to sell our product, but the value and the money that was attained to try to sell it had to change dramatically. So we quickly developed ourselves and the understanding of how much funding, grants and funding is available within countries in order to develop our staff. And we found over the course of about 6 months that the amount of money available to businesses to develop people is astronomical, to the tune of about £4 billion a year sloshes about the UK. And it's just a question of knowing where to go and get it and how to spend it wisely. And so not only do we deliver much of our portfolio and deliver the actual training, focus heavily on the grants and funding attached to the development of those training. So just like how important it was to the business in 2008, we think with the country going into such a deep recession as it is just starting now, we feel as if the lessons that we've learned, the knowledge that we have gained from what happened in 2008, I think needs to come back to the surface just now, so that it's fresh in our minds to what financial support is available for the development of yourselves plus the people attached to your business.
Okay, so let's go into the practicality of this. And I'd like to just firstly start with Shane Duncan, who's the MD and owner of Duncan Carpentry and Construction. Firstly, Jane, over to you. If you could just give us a small summary in terms of your business, and perhaps you can then pose some questions to Ian.
All right, am I unmuted?
No, you're good, yeah. You're good to go.
Hello, how are we doing? So I've recently set up my own carpentry company. I've got about 4 lads working for me at the moment, and I hope to sort of upscale it to 10 or 12 lads in the next 6 months. So I was just sort of looking for advice about taking on apprentices and sort of what sort of funding we could get.
Okay. Yeah. So the common thing with that, Shane, is you may or may not have heard of an organisation called the CITB, Construction Industry Training Board. It's quite common for businesses your size and currently where you are to have never heard of this organisation, but I strongly suggest that you do and you find out quickly. The www.citb.co.uk, their website is quite easy to follow. The CITB is from a construction basis, because they were born just at the end of the Second World War, and they actually have a legal entitlement that construction companies are members of them. The bad point of being a member is you have to pay a levy, and the levy charges at the present moment in time is you have to pay them 0.35% of your PYE bills. So, for example, if you have 50 employees all earning £25,000 a year, you would pay the CITB £4,375 a year. So for your business at the present moment in time, Shane, the payment to CITB would be very minimal indeed, but you would need to be aware that as you grow the business every year, we would take an assessment of you from your PYE bill, and that would understand what the bill is. 0.35% for PAYE, and if you bring any labour-only subcontractors in, you'll pay 1.25% of your net CIS bill as well. So that's the money that goes out. That's the bad news.
Yeah.
The good news for you would be, for example, if you were to take a apprentice on, I'm going to look at Danielle here and see if she can nod away. Yeah. If I would assume that a joinery apprenticeship might last 24 months and thereabouts, anywhere between 12 and 24 months.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So if you are a member of CITB chain and you pay your levy, you may have, I think your levy would be the low hundreds, a couple of £100 a year you would have to pay them. If you took an apprentice on, CITB would reimburse you through their grant model, and for one apprentice on a 1-year model, CITB would give you £6,000 over the duration of that 12-month programme. Yeah, that's for one apprentice. If that apprenticeship programme lasted 2 years, they would pay you £8,500 for additional cost of training for that apprentice.
Is that upon a completion or beforehand?
Yeah, so what they do is they split that up into two bases. So the first year, for example, you get grants, you get an attendance grant, and then you get the completion grant. So the attendance grant would be paid, the value of that is £2,500, and that would be split quarterly in arrears. So they would be paying you quarterly payments in arrears for that individual. And the £3,500 comes when a business like ours sends the CITB the certificates, and the CITB will trigger the completion payment to you for £3,500.
Okay.
At Geason, we help with all the administration paperwork attached to that. So that's just one example of how the CITB is there to benefit a business like yourself.
Okay.
Sorry, go on, Shane.
Can Geason help finding apprentices, or is that something I have to do?
Correct. So not only would the CITB pay you £6,000, we have a unit within the business run by Lauren Davis. We would source apprentices for you. So we would go out, look for an apprentice. We would then supply 2 or 3 for you for final interview, and you would pick what one of those apprentices you want to take on. Now, the cost of the apprenticeship training, we would get that covered through the government. Because of the size of business you've got, we would need to go to a non-levy apprenticeship contract. Either that or we use, I can get quite complicated on this just now, Shane, but we can either do it through a non-levy, or we can use one of your major contractors through their own levy account. But ultimately, the cost of the training for the apprenticeship for a level 2 joinery, I would predict it would be about £5,000–6,000 a year, around about that figure. I don't know the exact number, it would be around about that number. So we would get £6,000 paid from the government to deliver the training. The CITB would give you £6,000 year one, and an additional 2.5 if the programme lasted 2 years. Very cost efficient way to grow your workforce in these times.
Okay, just quickly now, conscious of time, because we have a lot of people to get through here. Over to you, Darren. So if you could unmute for me from Minihar and give us a quick kind of flavour of the type of apprenticeships that you would be interested, or the type of funding or training that your company is currently seeking.
Okay, well, until 2018, official training was not something we'd really got involved in, but the way the industry's changed, we now have to put sweeper operators through an MVQ in order to get them a CSCS card to work on site. So it's NVQ level 2s that we're now looking at maybe getting funded.
Right, so Geason, Ian, how can you help Darren in that regard?
Yeah, Dan, just a quick question. How many employees do you have?
At the moment, we have around 20 employees.
20 employees. And you are CITB registered?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So there's various ways that we would do that, Darren. So what you would come to Geason with a request to say, right, I need 5 guys put through an NVQ, and the total cost of that would be in the region of about £1,200 to £1,400 per person. So you're looking at a bill for the NVQs of about £7,500, rough figure. That's the value of the product that we deliver. We could then go to various sources for that. So for example, CITB would pay you £600 for one of those qualifications. So they were starting to chip away at the cost of that. Yeah. So that's a completion grant that CITB would pay on completion. There is various other funding out there. Believe it or not, Darren, one of the avenues that we've got is the European Social Fund that's open to us, but that's restricted to certain regions within the UK. But what we would do is we would make sure that if we couldn't supply that funding, then we would be able to signpost you to the relevant training provider who would have that funding available. So that's very regionalised. So not just where the business is, but the postcode for where the person that requires the NVQ is. So that helps from a national basis as well. The ESF would cover the full cost of the NVQ that would be required, so long as it fits into the eligibility criteria that the local LET would have. So there's a lot of options open to you in relation to getting that funded. Additional to that, the CITB have got the Skills Fund, Darren.
Yeah.
So Geason can write an application, takes a couple of hours. We write an application, we do a TNA on your business. We send that application to the CITB. The CITB on a monthly basis would assess it. We've got a 99% success rate on the applications we're doing just now. And the CITB, on the size of business you've got, would send you £5,000 cash for you to spend on training as you see fit at this moment in time. So if you come to Geason just now and you say, I need X amount of NVQs, we would absolutely be able to do that at no cost to you whatsoever, which really takes away the financial pain that you might have.
Okay.
That decision.
Okay, just moving on to Mark Kennedy, and what I'm trying to do here in a very short space of time is give a flavour of different sizes of companies in terms of their eligibility into getting funding and funding from Geason in particular. So Mark Kennedy, MD of Fireward Group, just give us an idea of what type of the requirements and what way you're approaching training in general and how Geason could possibly help you.
Okay, well, we've got two things happening. Hopefully everyone can hear me. We've got two things since the COVID. The change of business direction is the main one. We've had to change from dealing with account customers to the general public on the waste side of the business. So that's been a complete transformation. So we've had to learn digital marketing really quickly, online marketing. So we need to understand what the opportunities are there to retrain existing staff that we have. And not only that, the apprenticeship side, I can kind of get my head around. That's on the waste side. So the complete turnaround of what we used to do, which was face-to-face, has now become very much Facebook, very much social media driven marketing, and understanding that. And obviously we've made some mistakes. However, it has saved the business. And then on the other side, on the fireward side, which is the fire suppression side, the problem we have is we need bespoke training, something that's not accredited at the moment and not recognised by any governing body like CITB and things like that. And we're wondering how we can create the standard and create our own training, if you like. So both areas there are really around creating our own type of training rather than getting something off the shelf. And I wonder what support there was available for that.
Over to you, Ian.
Yeah. So just picking one at a time. Can I just ask a question, Mark?
Yeah.
If employee numbers are important for me to get a picture. So from a waste management side, how many employees?
90.
90. And are they CITB registered, the business?
No, we're not.
They're not. Okay.
Because we're not really in construction, but
Correct.
I know.
But you're not adverse, Mark, to actually becoming CITB registered either, are you?
No, not at all. No. We just. But we're at that levy point of just about tipping to the edge of the salary expectations. The other businesses are quite small, so the other businesses, the fireward, and I'll add the fireward and the manufacturing. Don't worry about the difference. There's probably around about 35 people.
Okay. So you're probably out of scope. From a business perspective, it sounds like you're out of scope from a CITB perspective, and you're just at that tipping point on the apprenticeship levy perspective as well. So there's not much of an initial layout, but there is a requirement to spend hard-earned cash for various ways. So there are a lot of options open to us here, Mark, but it takes a bit of legwork. And from a digital marketing perspective, there are apprenticeship programs available for them. So you can get that for free, whether that's for a new entrant, a young kid coming into the sector for the first time, coming from school, these young masters in digital marketing, it's second nature to them. So we promote that in a big way. We can deliver that as well. We must have done about 150 digital marketing apprenticeships over the last 18 months. It's been a very, very popular course with the kids coming out of school as well. Talent is very, very strong. It's very funky and very fashionable. So the quality of individual that comes to your business from a medium to long term is very attractive. Also, upskilling your existing workers is an option to you there as well. And again, you're there or thereabouts. You're there or thereabouts on the crust with the PYE bill of £2 million in order to pay the levy. So the option for you to get non-levy funding is absolutely there. So there's no cost whatsoever to you as a business. That's not true. Sorry, let me quantify that. There is a cost to the business. You would have to pay 10% of the cost of the apprenticeship programme. So if digital marketing is about £9,000 for an 18-month programme, you would be liable per person for £900 per person. That would be payable in equal instalments through the months that the person was on programme. So get it in your head, roughly about £75 a month bill per person per qualification. The government would support the rest of the cost of that qualification for you. From a fire suppression perspective, your own accreditations is an interesting market. We've got other businesses in a similar market to yourself from a waste management perspective. Well-known London businesses that do that. They've set up their own training arm, and Geason are in helping support anything that they can do with that at all. Can you get your own accreditations? Absolutely. You can go to awarding bodies like NOCN and get accreditations. What the accreditations do, it makes it a hell of a lot easier actually to go to additional funding bodies and try and get them funded. So other options that we would need to look at is we could go to local colleges to see if they've got pots of funding. We could go to the European Social Fund. There's another fund that's called the Adult Education Budget, which again is a pot of money. Local enterprise partnerships, LEPs as we call them. These are organisations that focus very regionally to businesses, and again, they've also got pots of money, as do local authorities as well. So there's a lot of doors to chat, Mark. But what you've got to do is, you've got to know what door to chat. Number two, you've got to have the time in order to do that as well. Would we be comfortable that we would find somebody to help fund that business? Absolutely, no question about it. It's just being able to put the legwork in. So what you've got to do, Mark, is you've got to quickly ascertain what kind of cost are we actually going to lay out here. Is it 300 quid? I would say to you, you're probably spending 300 quid trying to find the funding. Whereas if it is £1,000, then it would definitely be worthwhile taking a little step back and trying to source what funding we can help you with, what doors to chat, no problem whatsoever.
Okay, I'll just move on so to next is Jane in Reliable Contractors. Perhaps Jane, you might give us a kind of flavour of the type of training that you'd be interested in and how can it affect your company.
Okay, hello everyone. Can you see me?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Well, we are a labour-only recruitment company, providing civils labour into the tunnelling and infrastructure major projects throughout the UK. Because we only deal with tier 1 contractors directly, a lot of our contractors have to be CSCS blue card. So our first big thing really is anyone that's on the CSCS red card, we'd be looking to move them up onto a blue card. Now we did have a deal with one of our contractors recently on the MVQs, whereby we would just pay them, I think it was £81 as a registration charge, and they would then train the worker, and they would then claim the grant back from CITB. Is that something that you would be able to do for us, or would we have to make the claim ourselves?
Yeah, ultimately, hi Jane, I know Reliable quite well. The first thing with a business that use it's really it's very, very important to understand the complexity, not the complexities, the detail that sits within the business. You know, one of the questions that I've asked other guys a lot very early on is what the employment status is of individuals within the business. Employment status drives funding. Those that are labour-only subcontractors, it becomes more difficult, and we've got less options open to us. So the first thing with a business that's quite substantial, light, reliable, carrying 200 or 300 men at any one point in time, if I've got the numbers right there, Jane, is doing a full training needs analysis and understanding exactly what the business needs. The reason why we would do a training needs analysis is because there's certain elements of your business that would be funded very, very well, and there's certain elements of your business that would be funded slightly less well. So what we would be trying to do is to understand what the full cost of the full package would look like, and then making sure that we don't look upon it on any single training element, and we look upon it as a whole cost and a whole pricing package that would be put in. Getting back to your specific question, yes, as a business, we deliver about 3,500 NVQs on an annual basis. So the drive and the requirement for Blue CSCS card from Tier 1 contractors is a big part of what we do on an annual basis. So any requirements you have from a carding perspective, any movement from green or red card up to blue, gold or black, is something that we do on a regular basis. As far as the specific funding model that you talked there from a Tier 1 contractor, it's not something I commonly hear. I would be quite interested to know how well that's worked for you in relation to only having to pay 85 quid registration fee and then an NVQ arrives at the back end. That's quite an interesting model, and one that if it works for you, I would definitely recommend that you stick with, because this value of the CITB is only £600 coming at the back end. So our qualifications are anywhere between £1,200 and £1,400. There's a business that's doing it for 550 quid. That's I can't even do that at cost at that, Jane. So, but what we would do is we would find additional funding pots for your business to come out and help that transition to Blue CSCS.
Okay. Is that okay, Jane? Have you any further questions?
I've got lots of questions, to be honest with you, but I'm speaking to Danielle tomorrow, and from there we'll probably build further. I mean, it's a bit of an unusual time, obviously, for everybody at the minute. The people that we would like to be out training currently are not able to go out training, but I think it's an opportunity for us to get all of our ducks in order, if you like, and sort of do a recce on sort of the 350 odd people that we've actually got on our database at the minute that are currently furloughed.
Yeah, well, that's what we're trying to encourage in terms of the platform for BITA, and in particular, we see Geason as a company who can deliver value like that in this current time. So part and parcel of the message today through this platform is trying to kind of expose that. So I'd like to just bring in Dan West from SOS, and just talk to Dan about your approach to training, and perhaps is there any scope here for Geason to be able to assist your company?
Hopefully, as I say, we've now got we're a SOS group, so we've got a few arms to our business, and at the minute we actually have apprentices through our a local college. My question is, would there be any sort of conflict in Geason supplying apprentices to us, as well as us obviously having that set up already?
No, there's absolutely no conflict whatsoever. But what I would always say in that situation, Dan, if it's broke, don't fix it. So if you're getting a good service off the college, then the relationships there, they're understanding your business, they know how you work, then I would definitely recommend that you sit tight. Knowing London colleges like I do, though, one thing I would ask you to check, if you are CITB registered, Dan, which I believe SOS might be.
We're not, no, we're not.
Oh, right, okay. So if you're not CITB, but it's not uncommon for colleges to be a wee bit less caring as Geason are, and to make sure that all the grants are getting claimed down as they should be.
Yeah.
If you are construction related, it's very, very similar to what I said to Shane earlier on, Dan.
Yeah.
It's a huge advantage. So potentially you might want to give me a phone and we could look at your CITB registration.
Yeah, well, that would be good. Help with that. And obviously going back to doing the analysis of the group, because we've got all different arms, and one of them now is over the last couple of years has been a construction company. So whereas we've got we're originally a recruitment firm, we've now got a few different sort of avenues, and having a little look and seeing where you guys could maybe assist and see what we could do there. That'd be good. As I say, I've got quite a few questions. So yeah, it'd be good to have a conversation with you, see where we could go from there. Okay.
Just going back to one question, Ian, in terms of would an apprentice have to be PAYE? First is the first question. And the second question is, what happens if an apprentice is let go before the end of their term?
Okay, so the first question is yes, 100%. Government rules state that an apprentice must be in full-time employment. The contract, I should know the answer to this, Danielle may be able to help me, but there is a minimum hours, and it's something like they need to be employed for
a minimum of 16.
Thank you, darling. I was going to say 14, so I was going to be wrong there.
It's a minimum of 16, and that's if you want to pay national apprenticeship wage. Otherwise, the rules are more lenient.
There we go, thank you. But yes, they need to be PAYE, so labour-only subcontractors cannot go onto an apprenticeship scheme. The second part of your question is, if they transfer, then the grant transfers with the individual. So it's not uncommon. There's even schemes out there called shared apprenticeship schemes, where two businesses can actually share the one apprentice, Paul. So if you've got an apprentice on a 2-year programme, they are halfway through the programme and they move to a new employer, all the funding will come to that new employer, including the CITB grant if they're eligible, and the funding for the qualifications. So there's no penalty on that movement whatsoever.
Okay, and just going back to Shane Duncan's Duncan Carpentry, in terms of a young company like that as a startup, would you recommend a company like that at the start joins the CITB from the start, or would you recommend that they develop the company a little before they commit themselves to doing something like that?
What I would do is I would give Shane the facts, show him around the CITB website, show him the numbers, because, for example, he would be paying a minimum fee. I'm going to say, I'm going to take a guess about £300, £400. Let's say £500, Shane. You're going to pay them £500 a year. Once you pay them, that's your hit every year for as long as the business lives. But within year one, we would probably, if they took on an apprentice and done a skills fund, you would be looking at getting about £10,000 back. So we would present those facts to Shane and then allow him to make this decision from there, Paul. It would be, it's his decision if he wants to put himself into the auspices of. So it comes to two things. If he's the type of individual that says, bugger it, I'm no interested in training people, I don't want to take on apprentices, staff development means nothing to me, it always has done and it never will do, then I would say probably the CITB might not be the place for you. If you are a type of individual who's progressive with the people within your business, you see development, you see career progression, then definitely you have to protect that future cost of the development of those individuals within your business. So,
okay, another question is, in terms of short duration courses, what funding is available for short duration courses?
Yeah, there's a huge amount. CITB used to run it quite simple, and they simplified the scheme and made it as complicated as they possibly could about a year ago, and businesses are suffering from it badly. It's a heavy administration function. You would need to navigate your way through the CITB in order to do that. The short and simple is CITB have got it broken down, just using them as an example for construction. They've got it broken down into 3 tiers, 1, 2 and 3. Tier 1 is worth £30, so that's your average half-day training course, 1-day training course for common things like manual handling and things like that. They would support it with £30. Tier 2 is another step up on how long the course would run and the complexity or any of the cost that would be attained to running the course. That's £70, and Tier 3 would be £120 grant. Additional to the CITB, which I do focus on a lot, Paul, you've got other funds out there quite locally, like the adult education budget. the adult education budget can be sourced from local colleges, it can be sourced from businesses like Maximus or Serco, or large organisations you may or may not know about, but we would be able to direct you towards that. That's another pot of fund where potentially a large development programme for short duration courses could be funded through that as well. So there is options out there for it, Paul.
And finally then, have you seen an increase in terms of the amount of people during a furlough period utilising the furlough period to actually access training and find more about training?
Yeah, it's like a business like ours. We've got, we measure, if I talk about apprentices, for example, as a starting point, we measure them on progress. We've got 3 or 4 companies that are fresh in my mind at the moment, where we have taken apprentices beyond the progress where they need to be. But in order to do that, you have to be able to deliver training from a virtual perspective, so that we as a business have adapted. We have a product team employed in our business where 6 people are fully employed only to develop new product and virtual environments like the one that we're on at the moment. So for example, if there is an NVQ or an apprenticeship or a short duration course requirement within your business, one of the challenges we've got moving forward is going to be social distancing. So we're all looking at classroom sizes, so on and so forth. But as a business, we can effectively come in and deliver a virtual training session exactly how we are going through this at this present moment in time. We would have a fixed agenda of what the day looks like. We would have KPIs and target points through the day. And it's effectively, for want of a better phrase, it's like going into the classroom but sitting at home and while you're doing it. So without that system internally, then, well, to be frank, we would have been pretty buggered, Paul, during the furlough perspective. So it's not just the desire for the individual to develop themselves whilst they're on furlough, but it's also the capability of the provider to be able to deliver the required development course in a virtual environment, you know.
Okay, well, I'd like to finish now with the poll. So if Laura could perhaps put the poll up for us there, and that gives everybody a chance to participate in this poll. This is a little first for us as well in terms of our nuance to Zoom. So the first question is: do you think employees still be trained whilst furlough? Yes or no? Simply click on the yes or no and submit to us all. So I'm going to do it while I'm talking here. And what is holding back for offering training? So is it cost? Is it time? Is it fear of people leaving after receiving training? Is it a lack of information or lack of interest in staff? So if we could submit that, and Diane will then give us a result in terms of that. Now I'm trying to submit it myself here. I'm pressing it, so I don't know if this is working. But I hope it's working for others. In the meantime, I'd like to thank you for joining us. I'd like to thank Ian Kilpatrick. I would encourage all companies to contact us or Danielle in Geason if you have any further inquiries in terms of interests in the training element. Geason have been an amazing supporter of BITA and continue to support the organisation through our challenging times. So I'd like to thank them for that, and we look forward to maybe receiving the results of this poll. Have we got that results in the poll?
Yes, we have. Do you think employees should be training whilst on furlough? 100% yes. What is holding you back from offering training? Cost 36%, time 27%. Lack of information about what is available, 45%, and lack of resource to cover those on training, 9%. Have you ever applied for a staff training grant? 36% yes, 36% no, 27% no, but I am interested. And if you haven't applied for a staff training grant, why not? Didn't know they were available, 36%. Didn't know how to apply, 27%. Didn't think I was eligible, 18%, other 27%.
So the interesting stat out of that is the 45%, and that's what BITA is here to assist in doing, is giving people the information of both the mechanisms of the funding, how to gain knowledge about those mechanisms, and of course Geason are there to do that. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much Ian and Danielle from Geason, and as usual we will talk to you on at the business portal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys.
Yes, thank you.
Bye-bye.